NHS. But the scale of the borrowing needed has already unnerved the markets. And that was paired with tax hikes that voters were told not to fear.
Prime Minister, for years you told voters that Labour would fix public services, not by tax rises or borrowing, but from growth. And yesterday's budget completely undermined, ran totally counter to that argument and that promise. Why should people trust you?
What we did in the budget yesterday was do the only thing that a responsible government would do, which was to fix the damage that we inherited.
You're conveniently forgetting the central argument you made ahead of the election. That was why growth was going to pay for public services. That is why you argued that Labour could be trusted. That is why you argued you were different from Jeremy Corbyn. And now you've just forgotten about that argument.
Not at all. This is a budget for growth. And as you'll see from the growth forecasts, the significant growth in the early years, it flattens a bit, and then over 10 years there's growth again. That's not the height of our ambition.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has never happened before. Most people thought Sir Keir Starmer would be the next Prime Minister of the UK. He was the leader of the Labour Party and was forced to resign over a shocking £22 billion sterling scandal. The most amazing thing is that it happened live on TV. If you want to know more about this explosive discovery, you'll have to stay with us. Keir Starmer had built a reputation over many years as the most moral and responsible person in the world. He became famous for his strict style while working as the Director of Public Prosecutions, where he was known as a strict police officer. During his time in this position, he worked on cases that got a lot of attention, including successful prosecutions of people involved in major corruption events. People in the legal community looked up to him because he could handle the complicated legal system while still upholding the rules of justice.
We were doing so well. What we inherited was insecurity in our economy. We inherited a £22 billion black hole, and we have now turned that around. We've got the highest investment coming into our economy. We've got wages higher than prices. We've got 3 times interest rates have been cut. That's the difference between stability with Labour and instability with the party opposite.
When he became leader of the Labour Party in 2015, it was in a lot of chaos. The Labour Party had a hard time gaining back the public's trust after a terrible loss in the 2019 election. Many people thought that Starmer could bring Labour back to the forefront because he was known for keeping his cool and following the rules. His leadership promised a new direction, an end to the chaos of the Corbyn era, and a return to Labour's roots as a party of government, not protest. Polls showed that he was likely to win the next election. He had a lot of support because he was committed to reform and put a lot of effort into rebuilding Labour's relationship with the public. Under Starmer's leadership, Labour looked like it would make an amazing comeback. Starmer's stand against corruption became a key part of his leadership story. In a world full of political scandals and bad leadership, he stood out as a moral leader. As people got more upset with the way things were, he often talked about responsibility and how Westminster needed to be cleaned up, which spoke to them.
What do you make of this 22 billion black hole? Do you think it was there? Do you think the Conservatives really did leave the economy in such a dire state that Sir Keir Starmer has every right to talk about doom and gloom? Or is this some sort of play, do you think, so he can go about wielding socialist extreme policies and using all of our money to do it?
The national debt is over £2 trillion now. 22 billion is a rounding error in the total national debt. 22 billion, if there is such a thing as a black hole, and I would argue there isn't, because with government spending, it's all about choices. It's not a matter of identifying whether or not there's a specific hole that needs plugging. It's whether or not the overall figure, the overall debt as a proportion of GDP is manageable. And I would say that our debt levels have been unmanageably high for ever since Labour were last in office, frankly. We haven't got national debt under control. It's not about 22 billion. It's about making decisions about how to spend that which you do have.
But as Starmer's campaign for the country's top job began to gain steam, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon. Behind closed doors, forces were being controlled that could destroy everything Starmer had built. he would have to deal with his own credibility in a way he never thought possible as a scandal grew that would test the very foundations of his leadership. Surprisingly, reporters who are looking into things have found a big financial scandal that has something to do with Keir Starmer. A lot of people say that, shockingly, £22 billion in government contracts were given to private companies with ties to the Labour leader through secret channels. With the help of leaked financial records and comments from whistleblowers, these revelations have shook up the political establishment. The scandal first came to light when an investigative reporter challenged Starmer in a live TV interview with facts that could not be argued with. It was found that Starmer knew about the wrong allocation of funds but did nothing to stop it, as shown by documents, leaked emails and bank records.
The first 100 days of Labour have been an unmitigated disaster. I think they've been marked by sleaze, scandal, cronyism and incompetence. But above all, they've been marked by the ideological decision to remove the winter fuel allowance from 10 million pensioners. That has overshadowed everything. Keir Starmer keeps saying that there's a £22 billion black hole in the finances. Yeah, which is why they need to remove 1.4 billion of winter fuel allowance. Yet I've just worked out on the back of a post-it note that since July, Labour have spent £70 billion, 22 billion on carbon capture and storage, 11.6 billion on foreign aid, 8.5 billion on GB energy, 7.5 billion on the wealth fund, 3.6 billion to Ukraine, and on and on and on. Matthew, that comes to £68.5 billion. So they are lying, you think, not only about the pensioners, the 10 million pensioners, but also about the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of workers who have lost their jobs. That's Port Talbot Steel in Wales, at Grangemouth in Scotland, at Harland and Wolff. You know, and these are disastrous decisions, not to mention 100,000 jobs in Scotland at risk from the ban on offshore oil and gas drilling. So, Labour are not sticking to Labour values.
The evidence shows that big contracts meant for public infrastructure and social programmes were given to private companies with questionable ties to people inside Labour. Starmer's answer is totally and completely shocked. His face turned white, his hands shook, and he lost his voice for the first time in his political life. Sir Keir, did you deliberately let taxpayers' money be misused? Was the question that everyone wanted to be asked. The host knew how important the question was and asked it anyway. Starmer just whispered, "I need to talk to my team," after a long, painful pause. But the harm was already done. Like wildfire, the interview footage made people want things to happen quickly.
Would you like to take this opportunity to say sorry to pensioners like Chrissy?
Well, I am really concerned that we've been put in this position. When you inherit an economy with £22 billion missing, it is a really difficult set of choices. But what I don't want to do is to allow the economy to run out of control.
I asked you, would you like to take this opportunity to say sorry to voters who voted for you, like Chrissy, pensioners who are about to lose hundreds this winter because of your choices?
What I'd say to Chrissy is this. I absolutely promised that we would stabilise the economy to make sure we never had the economy getting out of control again. We then discovered £22 billion missing.
OK, so you've mentioned the £22 billion a couple of times. Just because I've asked you a couple of times and you have just skirted round it, would you like to say sorry?
The people who should be saying sorry are the last government who left a hole of £22 billion. And they should be sorry for that. They should apologise for that.
So you're not going to apologise?
I've come in to fix the mess, fix the problems, and that's tough, really tough decision. And if we don't stabilise the economy, we can't keep to the triple lock. And the triple lock is really important for every pensioner because that is the increase year on year.
As soon as the interview aired, the British people were furious. Millions of posts broke down the shocking news, and hashtags like Starmer resigns and Labour scandal were used all over social media. Political experts tried to guess what this meant for Labour's future, while news outlets played the damaging interview over and over again. People quickly gathered outside of the Labour Party headquarters in London to protest because the man who had promised to be honest and have integrity was now linked to one of the biggest financial scandals in modern UK history. An angry crowd waved banners accusing Starmer of betrayal and calling for his quick resignation. The air was filled with chants of "Starmer out."
What the Chancellor did when she walked through the door next door was to audit the books. What she found was a £22 billion black hole this year. Now, she had a choice: pretend it isn't there, walk past it, or deal with it.
Now,
we said we're going to deal with it.
I just want to stop you there.
Decisions.
I just want to stop you there. On that 22 billion, I want everybody watching this to know and understand that nearly half of that 22 billion, £9 billion, comes from decisions that your government has made to give many public sector workers pay rises above inflation, including junior doctors getting 22% of an increase over 2 years. So again, when it comes to winter fuel allowance, that was a choice. It was a political decision for the reasons that you say. You want to sort out the economy. But how can you justify it to viewers who feel like it is an attack on some people who've worked hard all their lives? They're not wealthy. They don't have money to spare. And this year, if it's cold, they're going to be looking at the thermostat and wondering if they can pay their bills.
Let me take that.
Even people in Starmer's own party were shocked. At first, some senior Labour politicians tried to defend him, but as more information came out, they started to change their minds. Members of the shadow cabinet quit, and MPs from the opposition benches called for an investigation to be done quickly. After a few hours, the pressure became too much to bear. Full-on crisis mode was on at work. A few hours after the explosive interview, Keir Starmer held an emergency press conference. As he walked onto the stage, reporters from all over the world gathered around him. He looked very tired. His normally calm demeanour went away. He slouched, his face turned pale, and his voice got weak.
He's lost his transport secretary, a cabinet minister, because basically she's a convicted fraudster and we're pretty sure, lied to the Prime Minister about the actual convictions. And now he's lost his anti-corruption minister because there are concerns about her involvement in an investigation into corruption. How bad is this for the Prime Minister?
Yet again, it asks a lot of questions, not only about his judgment, but also the team around him, who really ought to be filtering the people who are being put up for these ministerial posts. They've known for a very long time about all of Tulip Siddique's relationships with the Bangladeshi Authority of the past, and the fact that it wasn't particularly liked or respected. So when the first warning signs actually of this one going to unravel in December happened, the sensible thing at that point, when she had been accused basically of being corrupt herself and was going to be undergoing investigation. At that point, if you believe all the rhetoric about upholding proper laws and respecting rules, then she should have stood down at that particular point.
Leading the Labour Party has been my greatest honour, he stated. However, I am stepping down as leader of the Labour Party effective immediately based on the grave accusations against me and my belief in accountability. People in the room gasped. That was it. The man was walking away in shame after being on track to become Britain's next Prime Minister. He had to answer a lot of questions from reporters. Did the missing money help you in any way? Will you help with the investigation? Starmer paused and said, "I will do what is right." As he left the stage, his party stood there in shock and silence. While opposition leaders rushed to call for more investigations, Labour officials moved quickly to calm things down. The fact that Starmer quit was just the beginning of what was going to be a long and complicated political reckoning. The question now is who will take Starmer's place? The Labour Party is looking for a new leader who can fix problems and lead them to the next election. Names like Angela Rayner, Rachel Reeves and Wes Streeting have been thrown around as possible successors, but no one is sure who will take the lead. There has been a lot of heated debate within the party about the leadership race. Many people are wondering if the new leader can restore trust in Labour, especially after Starmer's sudden fall from favour. The choice is very important because the party has to deal with a woken-up Conservative opposition and voters who are very split. In the meantime, the Conservative government is taking advantage of the chance to win back the public's trust, even though it has its own problems. No one is above the law, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has already said, and he wants an in-depth look into the scandal. While Labour is in chaos, Sunak has started moving forward with a set of policies that are meant to boost his own credibility. He had earlier said that government contracts would be more open, and he promised to get rid of corruption in his own party. People are still not sure if this is real or just another attempt to take attention away from the government's own problems. For now, everyone is still interested in what the Labour Party will do next. The party's next leader is still a mystery. That's a big event in British political history that people will remember. An honest man who built his career on that promise has been brought down by scandal. No one knows what will happen with the Labour Party in the future, and things just got stranger for the upcoming general election. If you enjoyed this political firestorm, like the video and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating political content.